try some of this Gatorade.
Thank you.
There you go. Ah! Whoa! Is that...
5th edition feats.
Oh, here. Here.
5th edition feats.
Watch it out.
Unearthed Arcana feats. 5th edition.
Hello, my name is Nardo, and I really like 5th edition's Dungeons and Dragons. Or is it 1D&D? Or D&D 1? Or is it 5.5e? I'm not sure, but I really like the latest edition. The only thing I like better than 5e is all the other editions. Oh, I'm just joking. But I do wish I could use some stuff from older editions from time to time. In 5e, like 3.5 had a ton of feats to choose from and would let you craft a character very meticulously. Or maybe it was tedious and locked you into the same feats every time. Well, it's impossible to know for sure. So instead I picked out 10 of the best feats from 3.5 and ordered them into a numbered list and converted them into real 5e feats that you guys could use at your modern D&D table. Before we kick off, I just want to take a second to say thanks, guys, for showing up and watching. It means a lot to me. And if you take a second to like and comment down below, I'll be besides myself. And anyone that comments twice, wow, I don't think I'd be able to contain myself. I might just overflow all over my immediate vicinity. And in the end, isn't that what we all want? Anyway. Number 1. Combat Expertise. Anyone who's played a martial class back in 3.5 might have considered combat expertise, or at least read it before, and like a contractor estimating repairs for your bathroom, did a big exhale at that 13 int requirement. So what this feat would do back in the day is when you would take a full attack action, which means you spent your whole turn attacking, meaning no movement or minor actions, you could trade a bonus to hit for a bonus to armor class. And if that sounds incredibly middling to you, I would be one to agree as well. But wait, this is all a thing of the past as I present to you the new and improved combat expertise. You absolutely knew we had to keep the 13 intelligence requirement. It would just be too different otherwise. We have added an ASI, or ability score improvement, for those of you who aren't terminally online D&D wise. Personally, I don't even look at a feat if it doesn't have an ASI. In addition, like most D&D feats, you get two things. The first is the ability to fight smarter, not harder, which works in a 5e-ified way as the old one did. When you attack, you can impose disadvantage on yourself for fun, and for an increase in armor class. This is exactly what the old feat was about, trading offense for defense. Furthermore, you gain Mindful of Dangers, which lends itself to the Smart Fighter archetype. This feat is going for allowing you to add your intelligence modifier to any physical saves you have to make. All in all, pretty good for number 1. Rate out of 15 in the comments below before we move on to number 2, Dodge. Who did not at one point take dodge when playing 3.5? It is just one of the best bonuses to have, just an additional armor class. Very fun. However, something that I found some people forget is that you have to pick one enemy to have that armor class against. So it's more of a preemptive, getting ready to get out of the way kind of move. Now that we understand how it was, what is it looking like now that it's been 5e-ified? Dodge now grants a beautiful ASI to dexterity. In addition, targeted avoidance, which as long as you are attacking or doing spells, you can choose one opponent and constantly remind the dungeon master that you have one extra armor class against them specifically. And of course, there's another thing. Being that dodge is an action in 5e, we have to include something involving that. So when you take the dodge action, you can move 5 feet or 1 square or hexagon, or whichever you use, without provoking an opportunity attack. Really breathing life into the fantasy of getting out of the way that this feat is going for. I know it's amazing, but please save your applause until after. Number 3, Exotic Weapon Proficiency. Now, I know what you guys are thinking, and no, I've taken all my multivitamins. I'm a perfectly sound mind. So to explain what exotic weapon proficiency is it allowed a character to use a weapon that was on the cooler weapon list. Like how martial weapons are better than simple weapons, these weapons are, or were, better than martial ones. And since 5e took away different crit ranges and crit multipliers for weapons, exotic weapons sort of just fell away. Anyway, how do we change this for 5e integration? Well, we use the new D&D 2024 cool rule, Weapon Masteries. In the new version, of course, we have to start with the ASI, can't leave home without it. Next, we get the bonus Parallel Mastery, which I'm quite proud of because it's not necessarily strong, but it's absolutely cool. And that's the most important stat. So what it does is, if you have mastery in 2 different weapons and you hit a creature with one of those weapons, you can choose to use the mastery of the other weapon. Like if you have a maul and great axe mastery and you hit with a great axe, instead of doing the cleave mastery from the great axe, because you're only fighting one guy, you can instead use the topple mastery for the maul to knock the guy prone. And I think that's a lot of fun. Oh, right, and it also has another bonus, Proficient Damage, which gives you a few extra damaging swings per short rest, which is neat, and it uses the equal to your proficiency score wording that new rules are starting to use, which I'm a huge fan of. Let me know if you're a fan of Number 4, Whirlwind Attack. I mean, this one's a real OG. That stands for original gamer. Anyone who was anyone had a whirlwind attack in their back pocket, ready to blow their load among a swarm of gobbling goblins. But what did it do exactly? Well, instead of performing your normal amount of attacks in a turn, you were instead allowed to do one attack, and that attack could hit every single creature you could reach, and it was amazing, absolutely sweeping through boys with this. So how do we translate it to 5e? Well, exactly like this. New whirlwind attack comes with an ASI, because why would I make a feat that didn't? Also, you gain encompassing assault. As an action, you can perform one attack, and that attack targets all creatures within reach. This sounds very similar to the previous iteration. Well, why change what clearly is not broken, in the sense that this might actually be broken and very powerful, but hey, you're giving up all your other attacks to do it, and you might just miss as well, so I think it'll be fine. In addition, you gain the benefit Momentum, which is like a little bonus damage for you whenever you kill a man, to show how your character is really good at spinning around in combat and cutting through lots of baddies. But, if you guys forgot, we have to get to Number 5. Weapon Finesse. Alright guys, now hear me out. I know you might think my brain is on drugs, but I assure you I'm entirely lucid with this one. Let me quickly explain how it was so we can get to how it be. Weapon Finesse would allow you to use your dexterity modifier to hit with light weapons and a few others. But wait, you might cry out in horror. They already have this built into 5e. The Finesse trait is a thing, and not only lets you hit with dexterity, it also lets you damage with it. This one's already in 5e. Well, yes, the word finesse, the trait finesse, is in 5e, but this new feat expands on the idea of being a dexterous fighting guy that uses their superior speed and agility to outmaneuver and exploit the weak spots of their enemies. What this new weapon finesse feat does, exactly, is first of all, ASI, but not just for dexterity, also intelligence, and my reasoning for this is you have to be a clever boy in order to know how to lever and maneuver a weapon in a way to use your dexterity to get the most out of it. So the second benefit you receive from this new revamped feat is called Dexterous Combatant. And what it does is allows you to choose up to 3 weapons you are proficient in and gives them the finesse property, allowing you to use your dexterity to hit and for damage with these selected weapons. I think this is a fun way to reintroduce using dexterity when you normally would use strength, which is what the original feat was for back in the day. Furthermore, like all really cool feats, you get an additional thing, which is Supporting Riposte. What Supporting Riposte does is whenever an ally damages an enemy within your weapon's reach, you may spend your reaction in order to add to the damage of the ally's attack, kind of showing how you exploit the weakness of enemies and are always looking for a chance to strike when an opening is made. And if you think that melee-based feat was good, just wait till you hear about Number 6. Manyshot. And regardless of how many times this feat gets marked by spell check, I have made sure to see that it is all one word. What Manyshot does originally is it lets you shoot out multiple arrows in one go, like knocking 2 or 3 or 4, and then releasing them all at the same time. And that feels like a thing a lot of fantasy media and fun books do often, but we don't really have a representation of that in 5e. So this is where the new and improved feat comes in. How it works now is ASI increase, first and foremost. Next, you gain the benefit Double Opener. On each of your turns, the first shot you fire from a weapon that you could convince your dungeon master could accommodate more than 1 ammo knocked at a time deals an additional die of weapon damage. Now this means the first shot you send out, not the first shot that connects with an enemy. Also, I worded it in such a way that you could convince your dungeon master that you could put 2 stones in a sling and huck it at a guy, because I really like the idea of the Deadeye Slinger character. Moreover, you also get a fun terrain affecting ability in Littering of Arrows, which is whenever you attack with a weapon described in the first ability, you can litter the ground and create difficult terrain because you're so liberal in your volume of ammunition expenditure. This is just a fun little bonus you get to do, and movement related effects on ranged characters are never a bad idea and never end badly in terms of balance. Anyway, Number 7. Improved Sunder. Alright, I really like the way this one translated, and I think I remember liking it back in the day as well. So what Improved Sunder used to do would be for your character to more easily damage weapons and armor an enemy was wearing. And then you got to interact with the hardness system and the materials different things were made of, and it was so much fun and funny, but that is against the 5e design philosophy. No crunchy fun for you. You will get streamlined, easy to understand systems, and you will love them. So to change this feat, what I did is I turned it into a streamlined and easy understandable set of abilities. Let's get into them. First, ASI, because I will throw up if I see a feat without an ASI. Next, you gain the benefit of Shred Armor, which I think is a fun way to incorporate creating an opening for the rest of the party, or maybe even yourself. So how it works is when you hit an enemy, you can choose to not do any of the damage you normally would, and instead reduce their armor class by an amount based on your proficiency. And I think that works really well in the 5e system and leads to teamwork-based moves in a fight, which for me personally is always my goal, to try to make my players work together and have fun. By force. You also get the benefit Shatter Sword, which I really like as a Dungeon Master. So first what it does is you get to choose to deal no damage with an attack that connects, and instead you shatter or destroy, your choice of verb, the weapon that the target was holding, with the caveat that that weapon is not magical. The reason I like this as a Dungeon Master is lots of giants or big enemies have unarmed attacks in their stat blocks, but also have a weapon, and there isn't usually a reason to not just hit your players with the weapon every time. This makes the players give you a reason, and like indigenous hunters, you as a Dungeon Master can use 100% of the stat block. But if you weren't too impressed by that, I'm sure you'll be impressed by Number 8. Tower Shield Proficiency. So, back in the day, there were 4 different types of normal shields in 3.5. They had bucklers, small shields, large shields, and tower shields. They all had their upsides and downsides, and I really miss the buckler, but the tower shield was the coolest among them, being that only fighter could innately use one, and every other class needed this feat in order to even wield it. But what is a tower shield for anyway? Well, you could plant it in the ground and create an area of cover, which I thought was really neat and gave you a ton of armor class. But the idea, the fantasy behind Big Shield, I think is a slow-moving advance that keeps coming, which is what I kept in mind when creating this rework. Now, Tower Shield Proficiency will give you a fun ASI and the benefit Walking Bulwark. When you or a friend next to you get targeted by a range attack or effect that makes you take a dexterity saving throw, you can use your massive shield to protect against this, creating 3/4 cover against the attack. And for those of you that don't have every 5e mechanic memorized, 3/4 cover gives +5 armor class and +5 to dexterity saving throws while you have said condition. I think this definitely reinforces the fantasy of Protector Man with Giant Shield. You also gain another benefit from this feat, which is called Inexorable Advance. I wonder why that sounds familiar. Anyway, what this does is, as long as you have your shield, and why wouldn't you, you gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from all ranged attacks. So feel free to march right up to the gate of that fortress and take the boulders, arrows, and axes being hucked at you with nary a worry. Okay, we've looked at a bunch of really fun and wacky, but otherwise pretty straightforward feats thus far. But I think I'm going to take you guys for a ride with Number 9. Brew Potion. Yes, back in the day there were a whole slew of item crafting feats you could do in your downtime, which could last months or weeks depending on how well the adventure went. I chose Brew Potion to convert because it seemed the most compatible and translatable to 5e mechanics. How it would work back in the day, as a spellcaster, you could create potions of spells you could cast, and you would calculate the potion's cost in gold using a very straightforward formula that is far too complicated for 5e because it asks you to multiply 3 things. And that is far beyond the design philosophy of the current game. But then how do we translate this into current D&D? Well, I'm glad you asked. First thing we do is keep the spellcasting as a prerequisite. Sorry, Warlocks, you're out of here. Next, we sprinkle the beautiful ASI to make it a feat worth looking at. Then we finally create the benefit, Potion Fabrication, which breaks down the potion making process in a very digestible format. You get to brew 1 potion per long rest, and you have to pay gold in order to do this. How much gold, you ask? Well, that depends on the level of the spell. It's only a pittance of 25 gold for any level 1 spell, a reasonable 150 gold for a level 2 spell, and a hefty 375 gold for a level 3 spell, and you're only allowed to brew up to level 3 spell potions because of balance reasons. But level 3 has haste and fly, so you should have plenty of fun options with that. Bernardo, how did you come up with these arbitrary values in gold, you might ask? And I am so happy that you did ask. I used the old formula from 3.5. So for a level 1 spell, you would multiply the spell's level, 1, and the caster level, 1, and the number 50 to arrive at the cost. And then you divide the result in 2 to come up with the crafting cost of 25 gold. And for level 3 spells, you would take the spell level, 3, and the caster level, 5, because you must be at least a 5th level caster in order to cast level 3 spells, and multiply that by 50 to get 750. Divide by 2, and you arrive at the crafting cost. Isn't fantasy math so much fun? I'll let you guys show your work for level 2 spells in the comments below. Make me proud. But because this feat is so versatile in its applications, aside from the ASI, this is the only benefit you get from it, which is not what I can say about Number 10. Improved Familiar. This is my favorite one of them all, and if you made it this far in the video, you're my favorite one. What this feat would do is allow you to choose a cooler familiar from an expanded list, like Ice Method or Celestial Hawk, which is very neat to be fair, but there are no stats for Celestial Hawk in 5e. So how do we bring it back around? First thing, prerequisite. You need to be able to get a familiar in the first place. Next thing, ASI. You guys know this already. Now, the first real benefit, Arcane Enhancement. What I want this benefit to accomplish is to feel like you're taking your little guy and upgrading and shaping him to be better, stronger, more adventure ready, using your magical influence. What this benefit does is allows you to choose 2 upgrades from a list of 5 to give to your funny little guy. Upgrades like Laser Vision or Big Health Increase. The little guy should really feel like an improved familiar, you know? In addition, this pairs perfectly with the second benefit of improved familiar, which is combat aptitude. The familiar now acts either immediately before or after their master in initiative order. No more keeping track of the little guy separately, saving some cognitive load for everybody at the table. In addition, it can now take the attack action on its turn in combat, which normal familiars could not do before in 5e. This really makes the little guy feel like a contributor and a helpful wizard assistant that wants to contribute, instead of just a creature people sometimes remember exists in game. Wow, we did it. We got through all of those, and that was a funny old time, and I think they are all relatively balanced as far as 5th edition goes, which inherently is not a balanced game, which is fine, it's not supposed to be. Your players, or you as the player, are supposed to feel like your guy is a unique funny dude on a quest using his unique perspective, wits, and know-how that he cultivated himself over the years, culminating into the character that he is today. And if any of these feats helped in molding that funny character, then I think this video would be a big success. Speaking of molding a character, have you seen how I look now? Isn't it amazing? I thought I could get through a video without mentioning it, but I'm just absolutely beautiful. And I have the incredibly talented artist at ThePaintingToad.com to thank for it. Please, could you guys go check them out? I will leave links in the description in order for you all to do that. But why don't you guys tell me in the comments which one of the feats was your favorite? Mine is Improved Familiar, so no one else can pick that one to write about, okay? I almost did this list as a combined 4th edition feats and 3.5 feats, but ended up finding so many cool 3.5 feats that I just went with that. But I do have several feats from 4th edition that I could make another similar video on if lads would be interested in that. Anyway, like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and remember to eat your food in reverse order of what you like the most on your plate to end on the best tasting thing. Bye! Oh, and if you wanted to have these feats in a PDF format, you can. It's in the description as well. Okay, love you, bye.